The moment will come when everything you know suddenly stops. Not slowly, not gently, but with a final certainty that no one can escape. One breath, then another, and then a moment where the world begins to fade away from you. The sounds become distant, the faces around you blur, and the strength you once had slowly leaves your body. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to Halal Talks. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, and write in the comments which country you are watching from. If you are ready, let's begin. About Gin. This is not imagination. This is the reality every soul will face. In that moment you realize something you always knew but never truly felt. Your time in this world is over. The life you built, the plans you made, the things you worried about, all begin to lose their meaning, because now you are stepping into something you cannot return from. Imagine this moment as if it were happening to you right now. You are lying still, unable to move, unable to speak, and those around you can only watch. Some are crying, some are silent, some are already accepting what is happening, but no one can stop it. And then something happens that changes everything. The soul begins to leave the body. Not everyone experiences this the same way. For some it is gentle, like water flowing from a container. For others it is difficult, like something being pulled through resistance. And in that moment you begin to see what was always hidden. The unseen world becomes real. The angels who were never visible to you before now surround you. Their presence is undeniable. Their purpose is clear, and suddenly everything you believed, everything you ignored, everything you delayed comes back to you all at once. There is no more time, no more chances, no more excuses. The reality you once heard about is now in front of you, and this is only the beginning, because death is not the end, it is the transition. A doorway from one world into another, a movement from what you could see into what you never could. And once you cross that doorway, you cannot go back. This is the moment where everything changes, the moment where belief becomes reality, the moment where what you prepared for begins to unfold. And as your soul separates, the world you knew disappears behind you. No more control, no more delay, only the truth. Only consequence, only what comes next. And that next moment is something most people are not prepared for. Because while people think about death, they rarely think about what happens immediately after. They imagine the funeral, the burial, the gathering of people, but they do not imagine themselves inside that moment. They do not imagine the silence, the stillness, the separation, because it feels distant. It feels like something that will happen later. But the truth is, it can come at any time, without warning, without preparation, without giving you the chance to go back and change anything. And this is where the fear begins to grow. Not just fear of dying, but fear of what comes after, because deep down every soul knows that death is not empty. It leads somewhere, and that somewhere is closer than you think. So as the final breath leaves and the connection to this world is cut, a new reality begins. A reality where you are no longer surrounded by people, no longer distracted by life, no longer able to hide from the truth. And in that moment, as everything settles, one question quietly rises. What happens next? Because the first night in the grave is not like anything you have ever experienced. It is not just darkness. It is something deeper, something more real, something that will either bring peace or fear. And that reality is waiting for every single one of us. No one can avoid it, no one can delay it, and no one can change it once it begins. This is why the first moment after death matters more than anything before it, because it sets the tone for everything that follows. And as you stand at the edge of that reality, one truth becomes clear. Your life was preparing you for this moment, and now it has arrived. There is no turning back anymore for you now at all today. It happens faster than you expect. The moment your soul has left your body, the world does not stop with you. It continues. People move. Time moves. Life moves on, but you don't. Your body lies still, surrounded by those who once spoke to you, laughed with you, and shared moments of life. Now they stand in silence, looking at what remains of you. Some cry, some make dua, some are in shock. But slowly, one by one, they begin to accept. And then the preparations begin. Your body is washed, handled carefully, respectfully, the same body you used every day. Now completely still, unable to respond, unable to feel in the way it once did. Water flows over you, cleansing you for the last time in this world. Then you are wrapped, a simple cloth, no luxury, no status, no sign of who you were in this life. Everything you owned, everything you wore, everything you were proud of, gone. Only you remain. And then comes the journey. You are carried on the shoulders of people who once walked beside you, through streets you once knew, past places where life once felt normal. But now everything feels distant. You cannot speak to them. You cannot tell them to slow down. You cannot say goodbye. And then you arrive. The grave. It waits quietly, a place you may have seen before, but never truly understood. A place you passed by without thinking. Now becoming your home, they lower you into it, gently, carefully. But there is something heavy about this moment, because this is where the separation becomes real. You are placed into the earth, and for the first time, you are truly alone. The soil begins to cover you, layer by layer. The light disappears. The sounds fade. The connection to the world above is cut, and then silence. A silence so deep, so complete, that it cannot be compared to anything in this world. Above you, people are still there. They make dua. They stand for a few moments. But slowly, they begin to leave, one by one. The same people who brought you here now walk away, returning to their lives, returning to their homes, returning to their routines. And you remain. Think about that. The people who loved you leave. The people who cried for you leave. The people who promised to remember you leave. Not because they don't care, but because they have to, because life continues for them, but not for you. For you, something else has begun. The first night, darkness surrounds you. Not the kind of darkness you are used to, not the darkness of a room where you can turn on a light. This is different. This is complete. You cannot see, you cannot move freely, you cannot escape. And suddenly, everything becomes real. All the distractions of life are gone. No phone, no conversation, no noise, just you and what you brought with you. This is where the fear begins to settle, because for the first time, there is no way to distract yourself from reality, no way to delay it, no way to avoid it. And deep inside, something begins to rise, a realization that this place is not temporary in the way you once thought. This is not just a moment. This is the beginning of something much bigger. And as the silence grows heavier and the loneliness becomes more real, a question begins to form. What happens now? Because the grave is not empty. It is not just a resting place. It is the first stage of the afterlife. And what happens here will shape everything that comes after. But most people never think about this moment. They think about death. They think about janazah. They think about the funeral. But they don't think about what it feels like to be inside the grave, alone, in darkness, separated from everything they once knew, because it feels distant. It feels like something that will happen later. But the truth is, it can happen at any time. And when it does, there is no preparation left. Only what you already did. Only what you already chose. Only what you already became. And as that first night begins, and the reality settles in, something is about to happen. Something no one can escape. Something that does not depend on who you were in this world. Not your wealth. Not your status. Not your reputation. Only your truth. Because soon you will be questioned. And this time, there will be no way to avoid answering. The silence does not last forever. Just when the weight of the grave begins to settle, just when you start to feel the loneliness, the darkness, the stillness pressing around you, something changes, a presence, not imagined, not distant, real. The earth does not move, but the atmosphere does, and suddenly you are no longer alone. Two beings appear, not like anything you have ever seen before. Their presence is overwhelming, their form is serious, their purpose is clear. They are not here to comfort you, they are here to question you. Munkar and Nakir, the angels of the grave. At that moment, everything becomes intense. The darkness no longer feels empty. It feels filled with something heavy, something unavoidable. And then the questioning begins. Not casually, not gently, but with a seriousness that reflects the reality of what is happening. Who is your Lord? A simple question. But at that moment, it is not simple at all, because this is not a test of memory. This is not about what you heard or what you were taught. This is about what you truly believed, what you lived, what was rooted inside you. Because at that moment, your tongue will not respond based on knowledge alone. It will respond based on truth. Imagine trying to answer, but feeling something hold you back. Imagine knowing the words, but being unable to say them, because belief is not something you can fake anymore. Not here, not now. For the believer, the answer flows with certainty, without hesitation. My Lord is Allah, simple, clear, real, clear. But for others, there is confusion, there is hesitation, there is fear. They say, I don't know, I heard people saying something, so I said it. And in that moment, the difference becomes clear between someone who believed and someone who followed without understanding. Then comes the second question, what is your religion? Again, not a difficult question in this world, but here, it carries weight. Because religion is not just what you claim, it is what you live. It is what shapes your decisions. It is what defines your priorities. For the believer, my religion is Islam. And that answer comes with clarity, because it was not just spoken in life, it was practiced. But for others, the same struggle returns, uncertainty, confusion, because what was once said easily now feels distant. And then the third question, who is this man that was sent among you? The Prophet Muhammad, the one whose name you heard your entire life, the one you claimed to follow, the one whose teachings were available to you. Now you are asked, and again, the answer is not about what you knew, it is about what you accepted. For the believer, he is the messenger of Allah. And that answer carries weight because it reflects a life that followed his guidance. But for others, the same words they once said do not come out. I don't know. I heard people saying something. And that is when the reality becomes clear. This is not an exam you prepare for at the last moment. This is not something you can fix after death. This is the result of a lifetime. Every choice, every belief, every action, all of it leads to this moment. And this is why it is so powerful, because these questions are not complicated, they are simple, but the simplicity is what makes them heavy, because there is no excuse, no confusion, no misunderstanding. You either knew and lived it, or you ignored and delayed it. And at that moment, nothing else matters, not your success, not your reputation, not your achievements, only your answers, only your truth. And this is where the fear becomes real, because you realize this moment is coming, not just for others, but for you. And when it comes, you will not be able to escape it. You will not be able to delay it. You will not be able to change it. You will answer. And your answer will reflect everything you chose in this life. And as the questioning ends, something else begins, something that reveals the outcome. Because the grave does not remain silent after this. It responds, it reacts based on what you just answered. And what comes next? is something that will either bring relief or something far more terrifying. The questions have been answered, the moment of truth has passed, and now the grave responds, not with words, but with a reality you cannot escape. Because the grave is not just soil and darkness, it is alive in a way you cannot imagine. It reacts to who you were and what you brought with you, and this is where everything changes. For the believer, something unexpected happens. The darkness begins to soften, the tightness begins to ease, and suddenly the grave expands, wider and wider, as far as the eye can see. Imagine that. A place that felt suffocating just moments ago now becomes open, peaceful, calm. A light begins to appear, not harsh, not overwhelming, but comforting, and the fear that once filled your chest begins to fade. Because now the grave is no longer a place of punishment. It becomes a place of waiting. You are shown your place in Jannah, a glimpse, a reminder of what is coming, and in that moment, something changes inside you. Relief, a deep sense of peace that cannot be described, because you realize what you feared is not what you received. Instead, you are told, sleep like a bride on her wedding night, peaceful, undisturbed, protected, and time passes differently. The grave becomes a garden, not just empty space, but a place filled with tranquility. And this continues until the day of judgment. But now, look at the other side, because not everyone experiences this. For some, the grave does not expand, it tightens, slowly at first, then with pressure that cannot be escaped. It begins to close in from every direction, until there is no space left, until the ribs begin to press against each other, until the darkness feels heavier than before. And the fear becomes overwhelming, because now the grave is not a place of rest, it is a place of consequence, a place where reality begins to unfold. A window opens, but not toward peace, toward something terrifying, a glimpse of hell, a reminder of what is waiting, and in that moment regret begins to grow, a regret that comes too late. Because now there is no going back, no second chance, no opportunity to change what has already been done, and the grave becomes what the Prophet ﷺ described, a pit from the pits of hell, not forever, but long enough to feel its weight, long enough to understand its seriousness, and this is the contrast. On one side, peace, light, expansion; on the other hand, pressure, darkness, fear. And the difference between the two? Not luck, not a chance, but the life you lived, the choices you made, the truth you accepted or ignored. This is what makes the grave so powerful, because it reflects reality, not what people thought of you, not what you showed to others, but what you truly were, inside. And this is where the reflection becomes personal, because this is not just a story. This is not just something that happens to others. This is your future, your grave, your experience, and right now, you are still in the moment where you can decide which side you will be on. Because once this moment comes, it is final. There is no switching, no change, no escaping. The grave will respond based on what you prepared. And that is what makes this reality so heavy, because every slat, every choice, every action is slowly shaping what your grave will become, a garden or a place of pressure. And as this realization settles in, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. You are not preparing for death. You are preparing for what comes after it, and the grave is only the beginning. The silence returns, but it is no longer empty. Something is with you, not unseen anymore, not hidden, but present, real, and closer than anything has ever been. Because in the grave, you are not left alone with nothing. You are left with something you carried your entire life, without realizing it would one day take form. Your deeds. Everything you did, every action, every choice, every moment you thought was small, forgotten, insignificant. None of it is gone, none of it disappeared. It followed you, and now it stands before you. Imagine this moment. A figure appears, not terrifying, not unknown, but familiar in a way you cannot explain. Its presence feels calm, comforting, peaceful. It sits beside you, close, and you feel something you haven't felt since entering the grave. Relief. You look at it, and you ask, "Who are you?" And the response comes, "I am your good deeds." Pause. Let that sink in. The prayers you performed, the sincerity you tried to hold on to, the Akhirah you did when no one was watching, the moments you chose truth over ease, all of it has taken form. And now, it is your companion, not leaving, not fading, but staying with you, protecting you, bringing you comfort in a place where nothing else could. This is what you brought with you, not your wealth, not your status, not your achievements, only this. And in that moment, everything becomes clear. What truly mattered, what truly stayed, what truly followed you beyond death. But now, look at the other side. Because not everyone meets comfort in the grave. For some, a different figure appears, dark, heavy, unsettling. Its presence is not peaceful. It brings fear before it even speaks. It comes closer, closer than you want it to be, and you feel something inside you begin to shake, because you know this is not something good. You ask, "Who are you?" And the answer comes, "I am your bad deeds." Everything you ignored, everything you delayed, everything you justified, the sins you thought were small, the moment you said, "I'll fix it later," the times you chose dunya over truth, all of it is now here, with you, not disappearing, not hiding, but staying. And in that moment, regret begins to grow. Not the regret you feel in this world, not the kind you can fix. This is different. This is regret without action, regret without return, regret without a second chance. Because now, everything is sealed. And the reality becomes undeniable. You are not judged by what you claim. You are surrounded by what you actually did. Your deeds speak for you. Not your words, not your intentions alone, but what you turn those intentions into. This is what makes the grave so real, because it removes all illusions. In this world, you can hide, you can pretend, you can delay, you can convince yourself that things are not as serious as they are. But in the grave, there is no hiding, no pretending, no delay, only the truth. And that truth takes form. It sits with you, it stays with you, it becomes your reality. And this is where everything connects, because the questions you answered, the condition of your grave, all of it leads to this moment, the moment where your life stands in front of you as something real. And now the question is no longer, what did you do? The question becomes, what did your actions become? Because that is what you are living with now, not your past, but its result. And this is where the message becomes personal, because right now, you are still in the stage where your deeds are being written, still in the stage where you can change them, still in the stage where your future companion is being formed. Every choice you make, every salat you perform, every sin you avoid or fall into, all of it is shaping what will one day sit beside you, comfort you, or terrify you. And once that moment comes, it will be too late to change it, too late to go back, too late to rewrite anything, because the life you lived will already be there, waiting for you. And as this reality settles in, one truth becomes clear. You are not just living your life. You are building your companion for the moment when everything else leaves, and only your deeds remain. The first night feels like the end, but it isn't. It is only the beginning, because the grave is not for a moment. It is a phase that stretches far beyond what you can imagine, not measured by hours or days, but by something deeper, something that exists between death and the day of judgment. This is Barzakh, a world between worlds, a place where time does not feel the same, where the rules of a dunya no longer apply, and where your reality is shaped by what you brought with you. And this is where the truth becomes even heavier, because what you experienced in the first moments does not simply disappear. If your grave was filled with peace, that peace continues. If your grave was filled with fear, that fear remains, and it does not pause, it does not stop, it continues, until the day when everything rises again. Imagine that, not just one night, not just one moment, but a state that carries on, for years, for centuries, for as long as Allah wills. For the believer, this is a mercy. The grave becomes a place of rest, a place where time passes gently, where the soul is at ease, where glimpses of Jannah bring comfort. And even though the body remains in the earth, the experience is not one of suffering. It is one of waiting with hope. But for others, it is something else. The darkness does not fade, the pressure does not ease, the fear does not disappear, and time does not feel short. It feels heavy, because every moment carries awareness of what is coming next, awareness of what was lost, awareness that there is no return. And this is what makes the grave so serious. Because it is not the final destination, it is the beginning of accountability, the introduction to what comes after, and everything that happens here is preparing you for the greater reality, the day of judgment, the day when the earth will open, the day when every soul will rise, the day when nothing remains hidden. But until that day, you remain here, in the state you earned, in the reality you created, and this is where the reflection becomes unavoidable. Because right now, you are not in the grave. Right now, you are still in the stage of choice, still in the stage where your future is being written, still in the stage where your first night has not yet begun. But it will, for every single one of us. No exceptions, no delays, no escape. And when it begins, everything you heard, everything you ignored, everything you delayed will become real. Not as a reminder, but as a reality you cannot leave. So the question is no longer, what happens after death? You already know. The question is, what will your experience be? Will your grave expand, or will it tighten? Will you be comforted, or will you be afraid? Will your deeds stand beside you, or will they become something you wish you could escape? Because that answer is not decided in the grave. It is decided now, in your choices, in your actions, in the way you live when no one is watching. And this is the final truth. You are not preparing for death. You are preparing for your first night in the grave, a night that does not end, a reality that does not pause, a moment that defines everything that comes after. So before that moment arrives, before the silence becomes real, before the questions begin, before the grave responds, ask yourself honestly, if it happened tonight, are you ready? Because once it begins, there is no going back. Subscribe to the channel now, so you do not miss the upcoming videos. We ask for your du'as as we are going through difficult days. We especially need your prayers so that these videos can continue. See you in the next video. May Allah be pleased with you all.